Yes, indeed. You know what time it is. It is the top of the hour right here on the Morning Machine, the machine that makes your mornings move. Phenomenal morning. Good morning and grand rising to each and everyone out here in the land. You know what the land is called. It is called Radio Land. Now I'm not the Arsenio Hall announcer dude, but I can hold it a little bit. But thank you so much for making the machine a part of your daily morning routine. And part of that morning routine means great, phenomenal stories. Stories of business owners, filmmakers. Scratch that. Let me say this again. Award-winning filmmakers and authors. And the people that you come to know and love every time you hear the Morning Machine with consistency. That's right, I said it, consistency. Consistency is key. And who's always been consistent with filmmaking and the works that he always taps into. He taps into his greatness, being an author, being a filmmaker. By the way, did you all know that his nickname is Documentary King? Well, understandably, if you don't know, you're going to know today. You're going to learn today. Because Dr. Ric Mathis, Documentary King, is an award-winning filmmaker and author with over 20 years of experience in photojournalism and filmmaking. He is also the founder of West End Filmmakers, based right here in the A-Town, where we throw down. Black excellence is always key here. He is internationally recognized as a leading director, producer, and writer. Now, of course, you may have heard of this show before, HBO's Def Poetry Jam, right? Well, in 1997, he began his career in performing arts, managing talent for that show. These poets appeared at HBO Film Festival, Def Poetry Jam on Broadway. They went on to win Tony Awards. So when you look at the body of work, and there's more we're going to talk about in just later. I can't give it all away because if I give it all away, there's nothing to talk about. But there's plenty to talk about because he has a upcoming movie, B1, the movie, with Dr. Boyce Watkins that is out right now, and I'm glad to say he brought some stuff for me today, but I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it there. I will talk about it at the end, but I want to welcome the listening audience all over the world here on the Morning Machine. Tapped in with us this morning, Dr. Ric Mathis, a.k.a. Documentary King. Yeah. Good morning to you. Powerful morning. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How you feeling this morning?
Feeling good, feeling great. It's an honor and a privilege to be in your presence today and just having a conversation with me today about not only the journey, but what you have currently with B1 the movie. And we're going to get to B1 the movie, but as always, with every single guest, I say consistency is key, right? Yes. So we're going to keep that same level of energy and take it back to the old school. Let's take it to Union Square. You know that song. Mm-hmm. I know everybody in the room know that song. But anyway, see, I got to smile. I got to smile out of the queen at the table. I promised her I wouldn't turn the mic on, so we're going to be all right. But the queen's at the table, too. Good morning to you, sister. How you doing? All right, I just want to make sure. All right, so with that, let's take it back to the old school. Take it to Union Square. Let's go to the start of the journey. When you were growing up, what was it that sparked your mind, sparked your interest, sparked your passion for being a filmmaker and an author?
Wow, when you say when I was coming up.
Yes.
Now, is that in my adolescent years, my teen years, my young adult years? Which one are you speaking about? Because there's different variations and phases and things that happen, in the evolution of Dr. Ric Mathis.
You know what? That's a great question to actually. No one's ever asked that question back to me, which is awesome. So, to be specific, adolescent, and then as we progress from there?
Man, well, as an adolescent, I thought I was going to be a pro basketball player, man. Me and my
Okay.
cousin.
You had them handles?
Man, handles and the killer jump shot.
Let's go. Come on.
Come on now, killer crossover and the J. But yeah, so that's what I thought, man. I was going to the NBA, be a pro basketball player. Me and my cousin, we stayed right next door to a basketball court
Nice.
in Valdosta. We was down in the country, and we stayed on the basketball court. We literally wake up and we on the basketball court from sun up to sundown. So as an adolescent, that's what I thought. But then my mom moved us to Atlanta when I was 14. Went to Frederick Douglass High School. I always shout out Frederick Douglass High School.
Absolutely.
How about them Astros on the west side of ATL?
West Side, let's go.
You know it. So from there, I started writing poetry my first year of college. I started writing poetry, started performing poetry. That's how I met the poets that would appear on HBO's Def Poetry, and that's how I connected with a lot of the poets. So that's kind of how it started. From there, had the poetry career, managed a lot of the poets that was on HBO's Def Poetry, and went on from there, man. One particular poet that was on HBO's Def Poetry, shout out to Georgia Me. She went on to be on the Def Poetry on Broadway, which won a Tony Award, a Peabody Award, and an Emmy Award, the trifecta. And then the show was taking around the world, literally. Starting in Aspen, Colorado, we started out there, and literally took the show around the world. And after that was done, I was like, well, what's the next phase? Like, what do I do next? Then I started looking at the internet, because the internet was at the stage where we had the AOL dial-up. I don't know if you young enough to remember that. You remember
we haven't heard that sound in like 20, almost 25 years.
You know. When you go on the beach.
Yeah, and your mama and your mama picked up the phone like, didn't I tell you not to be on that internet? I got a phone call that I'm waiting for.
Yeah, that's where
I can't take that phone call if you always on that internet.
Exactly.
That was my grandma back in that. That was
took it back, right?
When you had one line in the house with no call waiting, and you were waiting. Your mama was waiting on that call, that important call that meant money for the household or something like that, and they got through with. I'm like, man, don't nobody want to hear that. And then you got in big trouble for that. Those were the days. You can't get those times back. You got to value those.
Exactly. So imagine if we still had to do that today, where there's one line in the house, and you can only get on the internet with one line from the phone, from a dial-up line.
Can I answer that for a second?
Sure.
I don't know what this generation would do if they had dial-up right now. They would be like,
dial-up internet.
Man, it's slow, man. Come on, hurry up. I'm trying to get on here.
Yeah. But not only that, what about getting knocked offline and tying up the phone line, like you just said? You know what I'm saying?
This generation would never understand
they would pull
those
their
struggles.
hair out.
Never understand those struggles. Never. I mean, and we keep telling people, but that's what it was. You were able to do this in a time of what technology was brought upon us at that time in a growing state. Yes. And so what would you say was one of the challenges that you went through during that time period en route to where you are now? Because it's a long journey we're talking about here, and there's so many phases of this journey, and there's different challenges along the way. So what was your biggest challenge along this journey so far?
Man, I'm going to tell you, my biggest challenge along the journey of becoming a professional filmmaker and producer, really filmmaker, I would say, because oddly enough, I actually produced a project before I learned how to shoot, before I learned how to edit. I produced a poetry project called Word that featured everybody from the Last Poets to Amir Baraka to Sonia Sanchez to CeeLo from the Goody Mob. So it had a host of artists, man. But I partnered with an award-winning, Emmy award-winning filmmaker, and I didn't know how to shoot. I didn't know how to edit, and it was a major learning curve to actually learn how to edit, man. I was trying to figure out, like, is there just a template and I can replace videos?
Right.
Like, it wasn't none of that. Like, you literally got to sit down and learn the details of editing. So if you have aspiring filmmakers that are out there are no shortcuts.
Right.
You gotta sit your butt down in front of the computer and start practicing, start learning, watch YouTube videos. Like when I started, there wasn't a lot of YouTube videos. So,
no, it wasn't.
Like YouTube wasn't what it was. Again, this was during the time of AOL dial-up.
Yeah.
And that was actually the thing that sparked my interest in filmmaking, is because I was like, once this internet has the bandwidth to hold videos, films, and things like that, it's going to be a monster. And so, that's what it was. So to all the filmmakers, take time to learn your craft. Study your craft and learn it. It will pay off in the end.
So let's stay on the aspiring filmmakers for a second. For aspiring filmmakers out there that are really looking to they may be here in the AUC. I know of a couple that are here at Morris Brown College that are getting into their own levels of filmmaking and just really getting into the business in general. What were 3 key concepts that you stood on throughout the process of this journey? Because filmmaking is not an easy task, especially when you're an award-winning filmmaker. Things have to be exactly right, and it has to be the right touch. So what are 3 key concepts that filmmakers need to know, aspiring filmmakers need to know, that you've stood on that have made you successful at this moment?
Wow, that's a great question. So the first one would be study your craft again. Study, study, study. Become familiar with styles, with techniques. Not that you're going to duplicate those styles, but so that you'll know the industry standard. You'll know certain language in filmmaking. So study, study, study. The second would be to deliver a product that's in Black excellence. So if you look at this project here, B1.
Yes.
We produced this project and we turned it into a DVD as well as a digital QR code. But if this project here was placed on the shelf next to any Hollywood film, it would look identical quality-wise. It could sit right next to that other whatever movie is out right now.
Right.
It could sit on the shelf with that, and it would stand on its own. So deliver a product in Black excellence, because people are going to remember that. And the last thing I would say is learn the art of storytelling. Filmmaking and storytelling. So learn how to tell a story from beginning to end. So the beginning, the middle, and the end. That's filmmaking. Beginning, middle, and end. That's it. The arcs, the curves, the protagonist, the antagonist, and the different contrasts and transitions that films have. So you definitely need to learn that. Those are the 3 things that I would say. I would say, number 1, study your craft. Number 2, deliver product in Black excellence. And if you're another ethnicity, whatever your ethnicity is, deliver that product in excellence. And learn the art of storytelling.
So let me ask this. You spoke on the art of storytelling as you're the documentary king. You have a structure to your documentaries in any project that you are putting out there for the world to see, right?
Yes.
Could you deep dive into the art of storytelling and why that's so important when anybody is telling anything, if they're doing a documentary or even a feature film that is with the intent is for every film to be a blockbuster, right?
Yes, of course.
No matter what.
Yeah.
Everybody has that particular goal in mind. But when if you're not a good storyteller and you're not aware of the art of your storytelling and how you're telling that story, because details matter. Details are very important, and they matter. And the people are really looking for those facts, those gems, the everything that comes with the art of storytelling. But could you deep dive into the importance of why storytelling is so important to filmmaking and any really work?
So I actually had the pleasure to learn from one of the greatest storytellers I feel that is alive today. Who do you think the greatest storyteller that's alive today, right now?
Ooh, that's a hard question because I could say so many names.
Give
you
me
might
three.
As well just go
give
ahead
me
and
three. Give me three real quick.
It kind of depends on the person. So, and I appreciate that question because for me, when you're listening to storytellers, it could be anybody out there. It could be a poet.
Yeah.
It could be a journalist.
Yeah.
It could be an author. It could be anyone, right? Mm-hmm. So my answers may be different from anybody else's out there in Radio Land. So I'm going to give you my three.
Okay.
Go ahead. And some are departed. So I'm just I know you said alive right now, but if you go into Alive right now, if I'm talking about Atlanta, anybody in Atlanta knows this man just retired from Fox 5.
Okay.
Morris Diggs was a phenomenal storyteller.
Okay, he was.
I'm going to give him that as a journalist. A phenomenal storyteller of 40 some odd years, plus years in broadcasting. And this man told stories. You knew what was happening. He didn't leave a detail out, and he did it his own way. Mm-hmm. That was his art of storytelling, to make sure we felt it, right?
Exactly.
And then, as far as storytelling from a different level, the late, great Maya Angelou was a storyteller through her poetry.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And you know, there's so many I can name. A lot of them for me because, you know, I'm in broadcasting. Mm-hmm. You can also say that Tom Joyner told great stories when we go to the radio realm.
Indeed.
Tom Joyner made you feel these stories to get your mind to think about not just black excellence, but what positives are going on in the black community. He told those stories by bringing on those iconic interviews. Matter of fact, we are telling your story. We are telling the stories of thousands of people that are listening out here in Radio Land about filmmaking and why it's so important. Being communicators. Being a great communicator is also part of that art of storytelling. Would you agree?
Definitely.
Absolutely. So now I gave my three. Now let's get the three that you were speaking of.
So with me, it's only one, right?
Okay.
Because I had the pleasure of working with this gentleman, sitting at his feet, and learning the craft from him. Mm-hmm. None other than the great Les Brown.
Oh. What? Top.
Yes.
Top.
Yes. So working with Les Brown, he says that people remember things in 3s and 5s. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, it's hard for people to remember what is being said.
That's true.
So if you break down a story in 3s and 5s, the 3 things that people want to know is who you are, what do you have to say, and why should I care? Who you are, what do you have to share, and why should I care? Meaning, how is that going to directly affect me?
Right, exactly. How does it affect my family members going forward?
Exactly.
You know, it radiates out from the core. Basically, you start thinking about yourself and then everybody else, your environment around you, and what do we need to do to help, and so on and so forth. No, I that's valid. Yes.
And another thing that he said, staying on the vibration of 3, is that when you're telling a story, tell the people what you're about to tell them. tell them, and tell them what you just told them. Tell the people what you're about to tell them, and tell them what you just told them. So as a filmmaker, those are the types of formulas and systems that you have to learn as a filmmaker in order to be able to plug in now your information to tell that great, amazing story. Because the thing is, everybody has a story inside. It's just how you articulate and communicate that story to others is what makes the difference.
Absolutely. And I'd be remiss, I don't want to skip over the HBCU experience. We're here at Morris Brown, I get it.
Yeah.
But you got to shout out Fort Valley State
Fort
University.
Valley State! Fort Valley!
By the way, which is where our Dr. Angela Kennel went to school at Fort Valley State University as well. Shout out to Dr. Kennel. You can hear her Sundays at 6 a.m. on the 102.6 The Situation, Spiritual Situations. But I had to shout her out because we got Fort Valley alum in here.
Yeah,
so you know how that goes. You gotta do what you gotta do. You got to shout out to HBCU. But in that HBCU experience, were there projects that you came across that really started to develop your filmmaking skill and further hone in and make them stronger to where now, look, I got the structure. I know I know where this is going. Yeah. I know the storyline, and this is what we're going to hit. We're going to hit A, B, C, and D. And we're standing on that. Yeah. So how has the HBCU experience at Fort Valley State University led you to continue to build the structure? Because I'm sure you did some film projects there getting started at Fort Valley State.
Well, it's interesting. In college, as young people, we're finding ourselves. So we're exploring. Right. So we're trying to fine tune where we should be. So going to Fort Valley State University, I was actually a psych major.
Nice.
So I used to see the people in the mass communication class, but I didn't really know what it was. I just knew they had cameras and, they were running around because, again, I didn't really produce my first poetry project until 2002, or a film project, which was poetry. But while there, I did host a poetry series in the student center. So we promoted a poetry open mic set in Fort Valley, man, at the upstairs in the student center, man. It was me, a guy named Nemo that I went to school with, and it was like two more other guys. I think the other guy was named John. And it was one more guy, I forgot what the other guy's name was. But yeah, so that's crazy. I'm trying to think of that name. But anyway, so on that I was finding my way. So I was hosting poetry, but I wasn't producing films. So I kind of fine-tuned that after the whole Deaf Poetry, the HBO Deaf Poetry experience. That's when I got into filmmaking, but while I was at Fort Valley, I was a psych major, man, trying to figure it out because I knew I liked, mental things, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I majored in psychology. But I transferred to Georgia State, and then that's when I got into music management and filmmaking at Georgia State.
Awesome.
So that's when it clicked. I was like, oh, you need to do this.
And glad you gave that, because that's what a lot of our listeners out in radio land, a lot of us want to know. That light bulb moment that clicked in your head, like, you know what? This is me right here. This is where my passion is. Yeah. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I love to do. And glad you answered that ahead of time, because it's always that light bulb moment that really drives you into your passion to serve the purpose. And before I get to B1, the movie, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about the Rich Kid Society.
Oh man, you went back.
yes. Back to
So,
hey, look, I did say let's take it back to the old school. Let's take it to Union Square. Even though 2017 is not that old, it's actually quite recent. Where you volunteered with Jack and Jill and Of America, Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, Black Men's Lab, and other phenomenal organizations. Speak a little bit about that, because from what I understand, former President Barack Obama awarded you the President's Lifetime Achievement Award for your humanitarian efforts and community service. And we are all about the community here. All the communities, not just Atlanta, but everywhere around the world. And to hear the extensive level of community work that you continue to do and have done and will do in the future, right? These are quite the accomplishments. And so just kind of deep dive into the legacy of the Rich Kid Society.
So the Rich Kid Society was born out of the film Black Friday. So I produced a film around financial literacy. It's a 3-part series that had everybody in it, from Malcolm Jamal Warner, Hill Harper, David Banner, Cynthia Bailey, Terry J. Vaughn. Like, you had a host of people in this documentary, and it talked about financial literacy. And the opening question, which I'll pose to you, is, if you die right now, would you leave bills or benefits?
Ooh. Ooh. That's got to be the most powerful question ever asked on this program.
Wow.
Because a lot of people at the stage in life right now where, and I'm not afraid to say it, I'm on the air, I'm very transparent, but not too transparent. Don't be thinking y'all going digging my personal life here on this morning machine. But to be flat honest, I would have said bills at this moment, which is not a good space to be in. However, it's building. The legacy is continuing to build as I continue to enter my prime. I feel like this is where my prime is, where life is changing. Mindsets are shifting. Paradigms are shifting. There's a major shift to where now the answer is transitioning to the better side of that. But if you ask me right at this moment, bills.
Okay.
I'm not even going to, as the young people say, cap. See, I'm still young, but I know these words. I'm not going to cap for my listening audience out here and give you an answer you want to hear. No, we're not going to do that. Honesty and transparency is always the best way. So I gave you my honest answer. But we're building and transitioning. It's all about the learning process of this experience called life, and what you can do to elevate yourself to that next level. And that's what's happening now, the transition phase that's going on. I'm in my prime. I'm in the prime of my life, and that prime is not going to be wasted. So when it comes to my daughter, I don't want to leave her with bills. I want to leave her with a lasting legacy. You know what I mean? And it's up to me to take control of life and make it happen so that she doesn't have to struggle with much of anything. You know what I mean? You're going to be an adult very soon, in about 2 years. So, yeah, as young as I am, she's about to be an adult too. But still, either way, that was a phenomenal question to ask. Probably one of the most powerful, other than my brother, Coach Jarvis, who asks me powerful questions every day. From a guest, that's the most powerful question that I've received. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
But when you talk about the importance of that question, listening audience probably didn't understand why you asked me that question. So deep dive into that understanding.
So that was the opening question for a film series that we produced entitled the film Black Friday. And from that, we created an illustration, a book for young people that we're a partner with the illustrator. And we created the Rich Kids Society. So basically, the Rich Kids Society were cast members that we turned into cartoon characters from the movie. So we had we had everybody from Les Brown, who was in the film, David Banner,
Terry J. Vaughan,
Dr. Mike Roberts. Well, I didn't turn her character into. So some of them, depending on what they said in the film, I turned the cartoon character into, turned into a cartoon character. So it just really depended on what they said in the film. But
got it.
Yeah, but Professor Griff was in the film. I had animation for him. So it was a few. We probably had about 9-10 characters, and we created. I called them the Rich Kids Society because we were creating a society of rich kids because, oftentimes we have to start from ground zero.
Right.
As
Absolutely.
a child, as a kid. And that was the thing that we were working to combat with the film Black Friday. And hence the Rich Kids Society was an example of kids that didn't have to start from ground zero. So in other words, they were trust fund babies.
Gotcha. And, that's still, phenomenal, everything that you're doing for the community. Like I said, everything that you're about to do for communities, not just in Atlanta, not just in the States, but abroad, because it's a worldwide thing. There are communities that are worldwide that have different struggles, different things that they go through. Not everything is the same in every city that we go to. So we appreciate the level of not just generosity, but your level of philanthropy to the community. Philanthropy is not always monetary. It's the resources that you give back to the community, and we value that. So we just, on behalf of everybody out there in Radio Land that can't all speak to you at once right now, we thank you for everything that you have accomplished in the community and continue to do. And
Thank you.
You spoke about the film Black Friday, but there's another film, even more important film to talk about, and that is B1 the movie.
That's the most recent.
And by the way, a lot of people don't know that it's known as the Code of Blackness.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. So let's deep dive into B1. And so when was the light bulb moment when you said, you know what? Our community needs this movie. And I'm going to be the one to make it happen.
Wow, great question. So, B1 the movie came about. I got a phone call from Dr. Boyce Watkins. I was, at the house, and he called and said, "Hey, man, I want to do a documentary on B1." Because he had been promoting the term B1, which means Black First. So he had been talking about it, and so I was like, "Wow, okay. When are you looking to produce it? Tell me the details." Da 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 da. So we worked out the details and the terms, and we started working on this project in September of 2021. We started working on B1 the movie, and we premiered it this year in August. We had a sold-out crowd at the new Black Wall Street. And we just had one with one of your previous guests who was just on the show, Yaki.
Yes.
We had a sold-out show in Cincinnati with him as well, where we showed B1 the movie. So, and we're getting ready for the Kwanzaa event.
Okay.
On December the 28th, we're hosting a Kwanzaa event.
Yes.
Called B1 Kwanzaa Experience, where we will actually show the film and have different speakers. We'll have a pop-up show.
Right.
We'll have cast members there. We got Ash Cash from Earn Your Leisure will actually be there.
Nice.
Dr. Chika Akua, and some more of the cast members. So we'll have a great time and an amazing time at the at B1 Kwanzaa Experience.
Absolutely.
So that's taking place on December the 28th at 4 p.m. right in Atlanta in the West End.
Okay.
And for more information, you can go to b1themovie.com. That's b1themovie.com, or you can go to any of the social media platforms, B1 the Movie.
So, before and I have a couple more questions about B1, the movie, and we started off with that. But a lot of people don't have an understanding of this code
B1.
of blackness, and to be honest, this is the first time I'm hearing about it. So, if you could, and without giving the whole movie away,
Got it.
because it may be a lot of details involved, but without giving the whole entire movie away, what is the importance of knowing about B1, the code of blackness?
So again, when producing film projects such as these, I like to start with a very thought-provoking question for the film. So with B1, the opening question is, what is it going to take for black people to get on code and put black people first?
Hold on. Time out. That must be repeated. Please say it again for the people way in the back.
Thank you. So, the opening question for B1 is, what is it going to take for black people to get on code and put black people first?
I'm telling you now, this is why, folks, he is the documentary king. You're going to have to put THEE in front of documentary king from now on.
I received that.
Because every film, every documentary starts off with a thought-provoking question. That thought-provoking question starts a conversation in the workplace. No matter how comfortable or uncomfortable people may feel in the workplace about that question, it can start that conversation. It's a conversation starter. Everything is a conversation starter. And if we don't start the conversation somewhere, then who is? Well, I know who is. Dr. Ric Mathis is going to start that conversation. Respectfully, he's going to start that conversation no matter where you are. And with that thought-provoking question, it goes into the explanation throughout the documentary of the code of blackness and what it represents.
Exactly. So we start the film with simply giving you the definition of being on code, I should say.
Right.
And I'll read that definition real shortly for you. It's in the DVD and the CD package that we have here. But it simply says, being on code means being sensitive to what the black society needs to survive and thrive, and putting those needs first and foremost before one's personal needs.
You know what? It's so interesting that you say that, because now we ask this question. From your standpoint, just personally, just taking the film out of it for a second, what will it take from your perspective to get our community, black people, on code to put black people first?
Yeah, so I mean, man, so I got a little cheat sheet because I actually have heard the answers from the great minds that are featured in the film, from Dr. Claude Anderson to Nuri Muhammad to Dr. George Frazier, Professor James Smalls,
right,
Queen Afua. So I have a cheat sheet. So the thing that was really echoed in the film was, it's going to take love. It's going to take black love. It's going to take a sense of self-identity, knowing who you are, loving yourself, having a self-worth in order to believe that you should be put first.
right.
Because a lot of times, from producing this film, a lot of people simply don't believe that they are worthy of being put first. So that's a self-esteem problem. That's a self-esteem issue. So those are some of the things that we address in the film, that we discuss in the film, and we talk about, because black people have gone through something. Black people in America have gone through something that no other race on this planet has gone through, and that being, we've been robbed of our land, our language, and our legacy. We're suffering from identity theft. So therefore, if you have an identity problem, then you don't feel a lot of times that you are worthy of being put first. So
you know, that's powerful. That's definitely powerful right there. And yes, you did say you had a cheat sheet because you heard from the great minds that not only give us the thought-provoking questions that you do and really put us to task on being able to answer those questions from an accountability standpoint, right? But also they're instrumental in the positive change in the black community.
Yes.
And that's a great cheat sheet to have, by the way, when you hear from those phenomenal minds and those phenomenal people who are doing the work, not just talking about it, they're being about it. And that's where you stand out differently than anyone else that's doing any documentaries of any kind. That's why you are the king.
Yes.
Okay? And so it's just awesome that you have this going. And by the way, B1 the movie is currently out now, or
so if you go to b1themovie.com, you can purchase what we have as a 4-part set. It's a collector's edition that has a digital QR code for you to watch the film and to listen to the soundtrack. But we also did something else. We also created a DVD as well as a CD for those people who still have DVD players and CD players, because we wanted to make
even the DVD player is starting to go out.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
About that in favor of streaming, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, I like streaming, but don't get me wrong. You know, a lot of times, you know, you could be deleted from the internet with one click of the button.
That's very true.
If you make somebody mad, if you put something out that, you know, people don't really want to be out there. So, you know, that's why we said let's do a physical disc as well. So therefore, you still have a physical disc that you can then rip from the disc and then put on online.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so it's out, and we also have the soundtrack, which I have a copy for you, and then we have the curriculum that myself and my lovely wife wrote, Isha Mathis, called B1 the Curriculum, which is a 140-page curriculum that has exercises in the curriculum that mirrors the film. So after you watch this film, you then have a curriculum journal that you can now facilitate and get the family together and practice these exercises, because in the curriculum journal there are QR codes that you can scan where you'll see a clip of the film that correlates with the exercise.
Wow, that's awesome right there. And that is so interesting because you know, you have a curriculum here related to the movie to not just exercise the thought process, but also exercise the thought processes of the family and whoever's on this curriculum journey with you.
Exactly.
They'll be able to exercise certain concepts and be able to just think for a second. You know, it doesn't hurt to think for a second.
Exactly.
And then you also have a clip to see an example or get a further explanation if there's something that you do not understand about the activity or the question, right? You're able to see a clip from the movie. You scan, you see a clip from the movie from that specific part, and it really gives more clarity and context to the activity in the curriculum that you're about to do. That's just awesome. I mean, you don't see things like that, but guess what? It's right here on the table in front of me. That's as great as you can get, because now it's an interactive process, way more interactive than anything of yesteryear. But this will really get your mind going in a way where we can start to really, okay, all right, maybe we should be doing things toward this concept, maybe answering that question for ourselves and then asking somebody else. Maybe this starts a movement, and I'm sure prayerfully starts a movement where we do, as black people, put ourselves first.
Exactly.
And get on code.
Exactly.
Right? But it has to start with a conversation. It has to start somewhere, and that somewhere is B1 the movie.
Yes, B1themovie.com, B1 the movie on Instagram,
yes,
Facebook, all the social media platforms.
Absolutely. I'm looking at the site right now where Madam President just came up on the trailer. Okay. So, yeah, I'm looking at that. Look at that. Yeah, Ash Cash just came up on there. And so, check it out. B1themovie.com so you can see what I'm seeing right now. The trailer is right there. You can't miss it. I'm watching it right now. I have to look up and look down, look up and look down because I'm trying to pay attention to both. But because it's so intriguing what I'm watching that you can't help to take your eye off the person that, well, in my case, that you're interviewing. I mean, you got the man right here, and I'm looking at the credits. You see what I'm saying? It's like even the credits. You can't help but just constantly look at it. You're looking in my eyes, and I'm looking down at the thing because I'm looking down at the trailer because it's so phenomenally well done, as it should be. You're the documentary king.
Black excellence.
It's black excellence. And you spoke of the quality. The quality you spoke of just really radiates because you can't keep your eyes off of it. Even with the person that's in the room. You're ready to watch this film. If you're doing that, you're ready to watch this phenomenal film. B1 the movie. You got to ask yourself that thought-provoking question and think about it as you watch. Because I'm going to be watching as well. Yes, I'm going to be watching. And this is a great holiday gift for anybody out there that if you have you want to get some last minute gifts and you want them to start that thought-provoking conversation with their family, this is a great gift. Let's go ahead and get behind and support. Show our support and get on code with B1 the movie. And just real quick, as I know we have 9 minutes to the top of the hour before we close. We're going to repeat it again in just a minute. But everywhere where B1 the movie can be found and how we can find you, follow you, and connect.
Yeah, so again, you could get your copy of